Good morning, Van.
Hey, how's it going, Nicole? How are you today?
I'm good. A little under the weather, but I'm okay.
Sorry to
How
hear
are
it.
you doing?
I'm doing great, doing great. We're ramping up for the big rental season. So yeah, I'm doing great.
Well, thank you. I know this is really getting into your very busy time of year, and we didn't get to do one of these last year. My personal favorite piece of every year is celebrating with you and your team after the September 1st move-in date, which I can't wait to talk about. But before we get into anything, I want to let you introduce yourself to the group because I don't think I've had you on yet.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Van French. I'm the director of rentals here at Gibson Sotheby's. I joined the company a little over 12 years ago. Prior to that, I was working for other big corporations like Fidelity Investments, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. It's always been super important to me to be with the biggest and the best company. And then when I decided to transition into real estate, to me, Gibson Sotheby's made the most sense for a variety of reasons. The big reach, the family atmosphere that you guys have created, and the amazing reputation of the Sotheby's brand. So I started, like I said, about 12 years ago as a rental agent, progressed my way through as a mentor and a trainer, became the assistant manager, then the manager, and now I'm the director of rentals for the company. So it's been an amazing ride, and I've loved my time here.
Yeah, we've worked together the whole time, and I didn't pay him to say any of that. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, it feels like you've been here. 12 years is a long time. It feels like, and it's honestly almost the entirety of the company with a couple of years, Delta. But at the same time, it feels like you've been here the whole time. I know anyone listening that's a part of Gibson Sotheby's International Realty knows that Van is very well known. He's very on point for us in terms of culture. He's hilarious. There's so many funny, amazing things to find out about you. One thing being that you were a DJ at one point in your life, and we can get into some of that.
I miss that so much. I still try to take a tiny bit of that with me into some of my emails and the different events that I host. But yeah, I think the most fun thing about being a DJ that applies to this job is bringing people together, creating a fun atmosphere. We're all working very hard. Real estate can be a grind at times, but it's important to me to make sure that we work hard and play hard and that we don't take everything too seriously. There's a way to work really hard, but also have fun doing it. So I try to bring that from my DJing life into real estate.
You do a good job. Honestly, people that have
Thank
never
you.
done rental in their life like really enjoy reading your emails. And I hear that like across the board. So your hilarious emails are appreciated, I think, by most.
Thank you.
Um, but that's a good point too. And something that I want to just kind of underscore before we start is Van has come up through the rental department. He still is very hands-on, boots on the ground in every aspect, but he leads up the group down. He is like truly a leader. And I think what's awesome about our company that we always make clear to people is we love the concept of bringing someone new that has promise and into the industry. But a lot of times the way that those recruiting conversations go from our standpoint is that we want someone to go learn and practice somewhere else unless they want to come in to us in a way that we can sort of make sure that they're not practicing on our buyers and sellers, right? So our brand is very much an experienced brand. What we have within the local marketplace, we have very experienced agents, top agents in every market. So when we see someone that shows a lot of promise, we want to bring them onto our team, but we can't just like bring them on and hope that they do well and have that be something that doesn't impact our reputation the right way. So one of the big things we always offer, in particular in the city, is why don't you join the rental team and get your experience with transactions, get to know the market. So many of our top agents still do rentals, but a lot of our top agents have started with the renters that turn into the buyers. It's truly a great way to build a sustainable pipeline, I think.
Yeah.
So can you talk me a little through that? So if I'm a newer agent and I want to come into rentals in Boston to get started, what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. And to your point, we have many agents who started, myself included, who started as a rental agent and kind of worked their way up through the ranks. The goal is you really build your client base as a rental agent. A lot of these people that you rent to, uh, in an ideal world, more than once. You rent to them the first time, they enjoy the experience they had with you. You did a good job. They come back to you a year or two later. They refer friends to you. colleagues to you. You rent to them a second time, and then as they progress in their careers and get more money, they come back to you and they're your sales clients. And we have many agents I can name that have been with rentals for a few years, some longer, some even longer. The longer you're with rentals, the more clients and bigger client base you have, and the more sales clients you have.
Right.
From the very beginning, we offer you hands-on mentoring. We pair you up with an experienced agent, and they're with you for your first 4 or 5 transactions. You're not kind of swimming on your own. We do provide guidance and an experienced mentor with you. There's a level of motivation, drive, and business savvy you have to bring on your own, but the mentor is there to help you with the technical and legal and guidance that you would need to really hit the ground running. So we found that it works very well. We have a lot of agents that, like you said, still do rentals today that started many years ago. They don't start in rentals and then go to sales and kick rentals to the curb. They stick with it. They keep doing it because they know that's a path to continue to get more sales leads down the road.
Yeah, I love that. And like I said, I've really heard from a lot of our top agents that they never stop doing rentals because it's something that builds their pipeline. So it's a really great foundation. One other route, just to note, if you're a new agent listening to this and realize we don't really take on new agents, we do also recommend being on a team. And so that's something that you can always do to have that mentorship, as Van touched on. We just want to make sure that there's a mentor. So like I said, the clients are having a good experience no matter what, even if someone's new to the business. And a lot of times when you join the teams, you're going to do some rentals, depending on the team structure, and everyone's different. But it's just such a critical piece in terms of the industry and agents. So I wanted to touch on that. I'm hoping to get a sense of the rental market. We all know it's competitive. You're someone that's looking at this so intimately every day. So give us a sense of the rental market. This is what I'm hoping you take out of it. If you're a renter, and then if you're a landlord. So we're going to talk through just kind of like what the environment is and some tips that Van might have for you, and just what we expect to see going forward and things we've kind of seen leading up to this. So can you give us a general sense of what the market's looking like this year?
Sure. So very similar to last year. So basically the pandemic changed things in a lot of ways for everybody. And during that time, a lot of people, businesses were shutting down, allowing people to work from home. So a lot of people moved out of the city during that time a few years ago. But so that was when the market was at its worst in the Boston area. It was very difficult, a lot of vacant apartments. Coming out of that, it was people came back in droves, and the prices just skyrocketed right back to where they were, and they've surpassed what they were a couple of years ago. And now with interest rates, rising as much as they have, a lot of people that would have normally been buying are either not able to, or don't feel comfortable with it, or they're frustrated and they're waiting. So there's a log jam of people that want to rent right now. And you add into that all the universities and colleges we have in Boston. You have graduating kids every year that are looking for a place. Boston is such a big metropolis in terms of hospitals, medical care, pharmaceuticals, biotech. So that you have all these people moving into Boston, and they have to live somewhere. And if they don't feel good about buying, or if they don't like what they're seeing on the sales market, they're going to have to rent.
Right.
So, with that being said, and just like if it's a toy or if it's a car or any other product, when there's a ton of people that want the same thing and there's not enough of it, you're going to have prices go up. And that's what happened in the rental department. Last year was a good example of it. This year is a continuance of that. Prices, again, are going to be high. They're going to continue to rise a little bit in rentals. It's extremely competitive. You're going to have really well-qualified applicants lose on apartments because you're going out head-to-head against 4 or 5 equally qualified applicants. So the most important thing I can stress to renters is to be prepared, have your paperwork and your supporting financial documents ready to go. Don't hesitate long. If you feel like you're interested in a place, you really need to be able to move forward and pull the trigger quickly. 24 hours, 48 hours is an extremely long time these days in rental world. You have to move quickly. And to that point, my advice to our agents, I always tell them you have to be responsive and accountable. A few hours gap in time can cost you and cost your client an apartment. So you have to be ready to move quickly on both sides, the agent and the renter.
Yeah, no, that's great. And will you just, I think it's fascinating. And I think we have a good amount of people listening from outside of Boston. A lot of times it's real estate agents that might have client coming into the area. So I just want to make sure that we touch on quickly the September 1st date is really unique to our market. And I think it definitely has an impact on how competitive it gets. So can you just make sure we're explaining like what the significance is of September 1st as like how do you know the percentage of what turns over on September 1st?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with that. The just over 70% of all leases in Boston began on September 1st.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the strain that puts on moving companies and cleaners and painters and all
Thorough
these things.
drive.
There's just not enough. And so a Storo drive, exactly. And there's always the expression, a truck got Storoed, and they didn't read online the directions of this one bridge that certain trucks can't fit under. But it's a log jam in the city. It's a stressful time. And the best thing you can do is be proactive and plan ahead, plan early. But as you mentioned, Boston, unlike New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Nashville or anywhere else, you can move into those cities pretty much any time of year, and you're going to find similar amount of inventory in the market, whether it's December or whether it's May or August. In Boston, if you were to move after September 1st, the inventory drops off a cliff. It's difficult to find a good place in February or November. April, a little bit better, but the reason that Boston has become so reliant on this September 1st cycle is many of the landlords had properties near universities. There's so many of them in Boston. The beginning of the school year for colleges and universities is September 1st, or right around then. That's when all the college kids would move here. So the landlords had their leases start on that date. Many of them had additional properties, and to make their lives easier, they said, okay, I have 2 properties near Northeastern and Boston University. Back Bay, I'm going to make my life easy and just make all 3 of them September 1st movement. And once so many people did that, other landlords said, hey, this is when everybody's moving to the city. I might as well put it on that. So
Right.
it's just kind of a piggyback effect. And now, like I said, more than 7 out of 10 leases began on that day.
Yeah, and that's where all the demand is. So if you're a landlord, you want to get on that cycle. I mean, I've been a landlord, and that's when the most people are looking, that in kind of June 1st through September 1st.
Exactly.
Another thing to note, because I know that people are always looking for a deal, and like everyone will say, what neighborhood could we get a deal in? And I think I'm just speaking off out of turn here, but to me in Boston, if you're looking for a deal, first of all, it's so competitive. I don't know that you're going to find one, but it's less about the neighborhood and probably more about the timing. If you can find a week break, something happening in February or March, typically that might give you a little bit of wiggle room because there's just simply less people looking. And so that's something to think about. 100%
correct. It's all about leverage, who has it. And the earlier an apartment gets listed prior to the move-in date, the leverage totally is in the hand of the landlord at that point in time. They have all the power. The closer and closer you get to the move-in date, the landlord starts getting nervous. The renters gain the power. They're the ones that can say, hey, your move-in date's in 7 days. You're not likely to find somebody. I'll come in there, but I want it at a $400 discount. And you're much more likely to get that than when it first comes on the market, where the landlord could say, if you don't want to pay what I'm asking, I'm just going to wait for the next person to come through who will. So you're 100% right. It's more about finding spots where the timing works more than it is neighborhoods. The neighborhoods just, it doesn't really matter at this point in time. There's such little inventory that the renters don't have a ton of bargaining power at the beginning.
Yeah. And I think, so what's interesting is, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'd like to talk through if you're an investor and you're looking, because obviously the market's competitive from a sales standpoint as well. But I was thinking as you were talking that the trend toward moving more in your lifetime that's sort of happening with this generation has definitely propelled, especially with the limited inventory, people to wonder, should I just rent, even if they're in the financial place that they could probably buy. And I do know that, between first, last security and the broker fee, like a lot of times people say that's equivalent to a down payment. And this is an unpopular opinion and probably something I shouldn't say, but as someone that does move around and has moved around, sometimes it makes complete sense to buy something and rent it after you move out, or perhaps even sell it after that 2 years. But sometimes when you look at it and you're going to get a mortgage, the bulk of what you're paying in a year or two is a lot of interest, right? And so if you're just going to go flip it, you do want to do the math on that too. And so I think a lot of people are. And there's a lot of people just saying, to your point, if they're in for maybe some sort of master's program, right? Somebody above undergrad that might be married and maybe has a small baby, like I'm sort of generalizing, but they just know we're not going to be here forever. I feel like that's what's heating up the rental market even more. It used to stereotypically kind of be looked at as something that was more just, if you didn't have the money saved yet for a down payment, you would rent. And now renters it's just a lifestyle choice, really. And so if you could just talk a little bit more to that, if you have anything to add to that, but then in general, on the other side, if you're someone that's interested in owning as an investor, what tips would you have for them, and what should they be doing other than get on the September 1st cycle?
Sure. Yeah. So from the renters side, you're absolutely correct with that. A lot of renters, once they pay the broker fee and all the upfront money that you just mentioned, first, last, security, that's 4 times the monthly rent. That's a serious down payment or investment that they've just put forth. That's somewhat prohibitive into them moving every year or two. That's just, they don't want to continue putting that money into finding a new place, and not to mention the legwork it takes to find the new apartment, the moving costs of movers and all of that included. Mm-hmm. So many people are just staying put. Also, renters are looking around and they're realizing, geez, there's not a lot out there. Even if there's something that's comparable to what I currently have, paying thousands of dollars for moving companies and another broker fee isn't worth it. I'll just stay put. And so that's why a lot of renters are kind of hanging in there and staying where they are right now. And then, as you mentioned, there's people that are just waiting for the interest rates to come down. It's all of it combined. From an investing side of it, if you were looking to rent out your unit, the best advice I can give would be to try to focus on cost-effective upgrades that would get you a higher return on your investment. Things that renters appreciate, that brings the value up. Things like kitchen renovations, turning in kind of weak or outdated countertops into nice granite or quartz countertops, updating the appliances, remodeling the bathrooms, changing your appliance and getting it more energy efficient, improving it that way. These are all things that the tenants are going to appreciate, that'll enable you to raise the rent a little bit, but it also increases the long-term, value to the property. So those are the kind of things I would focus on. You also, Boston, we're very fortunate. You're not going to see the downturn in real estate that you see in other parts of the country because of all the universities and the companies that we have here. So it's a pretty safe investment as long as you're able to, keep the unit updated in good condition. The last key piece of advice I would say to landlords or investors, Massachusetts especially, it's very tenant friendly, very tenant protective. Landlords, do your diligence, look into the laws very carefully. The security deposit law is one example of that, but don't just get into it hoping you're just going to make a quick buck. You do have to know the laws and the legalities of being a landlord and keeping the property in reasonable condition and making it habitable.
Yeah, and it is, to your point, it's a great market. It's diverse in terms of what's here. I know a lot of markets are, they hinge on sort of one industry or even one company, and, some places in more like middle America. And that's a little dicey. If there's one thing that could happen, that all of a sudden you're sitting with something in your hands. And I think that the students and the hospitals are the two things that, no matter what the economic state, of the country, or even just like that kind of micro market, those two things are not stopping, right? Major. So it is a really great place to make an investment, even despite the fact that inventory is so tight and just like across the rest of the country, that's keeping prices high. But it's such a competitive rental market. And, I think it is. There's so many creative ways to keep those things. So anyway, I wanted to close with your stats, because I think as we talked, I realized we didn't touch on, you're so good at tracking what your team's doing. And I think that would really like resonate, because people understand how much we're doing and how much we're looking at. Your rental numbers are incredible.
I appreciate that, Nicole. Thank you very much. Before I give you a couple numbers, we have a designated rental department with agents that exclusively focus on rentals, but we also have now with almost 30 offices around the state, we have so many different agents that handle rentals. They don't have to necessarily work specifically out of the rental department. They either been trained through us or they've had their own experiences, but it's not just our rental department that does rentals. But we do have that personalized, customized service if you want it. But between all of these agents in our company that handle rentals, we were able to surpass $4 million in revenue last year for the rental department. We had close to 1,400 rental transactions. We handle all price points. It doesn't matter if you have a $2,000 studio or a $15,000, $20,000 mansion per month. We would absolutely love to help you rent it out either way. We handle any and every client that comes through our door. We treat every single client the exact same way, with the respect they deserve. And we love providing the white glove service that Sotheby's is known for. I'm trying to think if there's any other numbers that I would love to throw in there, but those are kind of the big ones. The
1,400 is the one I kind of focus on. That's a lot of transactions. Rentals is a lot of work, dare I say, almost more than doing a sale in terms of just the paperwork and all of that. I mean, everything varies, but it's so much work. You guys are working tirelessly, and the 70% of those happen on the exact same day. So I'm always in awe of how well, it's just a well-oiled machine and how well everybody works together. And I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted you and highlighted the effort, because I think a lot of times, especially from the outside, that might not, be seen as much. And it's just such a big part of our business. And it's really competitive. It can be really frustrating right now, for anyone, someone that's looking to try to make an investment purchase, but mostly for the tenants, right? It's a tough time to try to be renting. So I wanted to get Van on here, get those tips out there of just, stay in it, be prepared, think about those dates, think about the flexibility you might have, and just to give you a sense of what was going on. So I'm so thankful for your time.
It was an absolute pleasure. If you ever want to do it again, I'm happy to do it. It was great.
Thank you. And anyone that's listening from Gibson, or obviously from outside, you should know how to reach Van. You can look up one of his famous emails, or you can shoot me an email and I can put you in touch if you wanted to dive into any of this a little bit deeper.